And, as we talked about with Ohio State at number 4, they've got questions of quarterback who's never started a game, replacing 16 starters who were key to the championship a year ago. At number 3 yesterday was Clemson, and the big question there and questions would be, can the defense improve on a defense that allowed nearly 5 yards a carry last year? Yes, they hired Tom Allen from Penn State to run the defense, but they got to show they can play, big-time defense. Plus, Dabo Swinney against SEC teams last 10 or 15 times just hasn't, been able to get it done. He did win 2 national titles, but, those days have passed. And, so that's a huge question, I think, for Clemson. And then for Texas, the question obviously is 4 new starters on the offensive line. Arch Manning taking the reins. We think it's going to be really, really good, but until seen, there are questions there. So, you have to pick somebody at 1. So we've got Penn State, and the reason is that on paper they have the fewest questions, and the biggest question is their head coach James Franklin. Does he have another gear? I feel like in the offseason, James Franklin and the program showed a new gear, and we'll talk about it more tomorrow, by going in and hiring the big name, big ticket defensive coordinator in Jim Knowles, and keeping, much like Ohio State did a year previous, keeping a lot of guys that could have gone to the NFL draft out of it, like their backfield tandem of running backs and key defensive players aside from Abdul Carter. So I do think at the end of the day, on paper, and that's where you do preseason polls, right? No one's played a game yet. I think the fewest questions in all of college football belong to Penn State. So I don't have a problem having them at 1. Texas, I think, is uber talented and really good, and have proven the last 2 years that this program is on a upward trajectory as far as championships go. So number 2 is where we have them. But until those questions are answered, I don't know that they have earned number 1 yet. No one's earned number 1 yet. Let's be honest about that. But you have to pick somebody. And it was going to be fun to talk Texas on a Thursday when we have Nick Shuley coming in here for the Third and Longhorn podcast later in the show. And those conversations can continue throughout the course of the morning. So we're excited to do that with Nick and our special guest, and Fozzy Whittaker will join us here coming up. Fozzy also from that Third and Longhorn podcast, a former Longhorn running back. So that's why I have Texas at 2. We'll take your thoughts on it. I've had a lot of people come up to me and say, man, the only thing I'm nervous about with Texas is that they're number 1. I don't like being number 1. So maybe we did that too. Just put them at number 2 and go earn the opportunity. At number 2 is a pretty good place to start your college football season, and that's where we have them in our Game Time Top 20 Countdown presented by Doc's Backyard. When the Longhorns are on the road, we will be at Doc's Backyard this season. Yes, and we'll hear Steve Sarkisian next hour, too, talking about, because he was asked at his news conference on Monday, hey, man, what is it about? Because somebody asked Sark, you've been a part of 3 national championship teams at USC and Alabama as an assistant coach. You've been around championship level teams. One of the media members asked Sark, what is it about this team that you look at and say they have this recipe, they have this sauce to win a national championship? And Sark said point blank, I don't know if we do. I don't know yet. We got to go prove that. We got a lot of new players. I have been around those teams, and you don't know if they have a championship mindset and mettle until you get to the back end of your season and into the war, into the battle, as they say. And so we'll find out all together. And I think this team does have the potential to have that, but we'll find out. We'll see if our first guest of the morning, up early, he is from the Third and Longhorn podcast, also from ESPN. He's our good friend and one of the best in the biz, our buddy Fozzy Whittaker, the lifetime Longhorn. Fozzy, how are you?
I am doing fantastic, fellas. Hope you all are having a really good Thursday start to the morning. And how about week 1 of college football has finally arrived? Let's go.
Let's go, man. How are you? You're doing Third and Longhorn. And by the way, congrats to the success of that thing. You guys are blowing up. I knew it would. There's so much appetite for Longhorns coverage now. And you guys, with the former players and Nick and Mark Higgins and the team, are doing a great job. You just did the road trip through Texas. So congratulations on that. But you're also doing ESPN again this year, correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct. Thank you for the well wishes. And I'll be in the broadcast booth this upcoming season. I actually fly out today myself to head to Fayetteville, Arkansas to cover Alabama A&M versus Arkansas in week 1. So it'll be my first time in Razorback Stadium, getting a chance to see the campus. And I can't wait to hear the pigs being called and be in that atmosphere again for what college football and the pageantry that comes with it. I'm excited. So I'll be working SEC Network this entire season. Myself and Dave Neal will be my play-by-play guy, and Morgan Uber will be our on-field reporter, and that'll make up our crew from a weekly basis.
Awesome. And I know you work as hard at it as anybody, and rising up, that's just what you got to do. Just keep grinding like you did in football. Fozzy Whittaker. Foz, you might have heard me coming in talking about, Sark was asked, does this team, what is it about this team? Someone kind of led him into a question and said, what is it about this team that you see that can be a championship team? And he said point blank, I don't know that we are. We got to go prove that. What are some things that concern you that would lead you to that could lead you to the conclusion that this team doesn't play for or win a national championship this year? What are your biggest concerns going into 2025?
Well, the most glaring, point to be made is definitely the amount of talent and expertise and experience that was lost just a season ago. You look at the offensive line from the offensive perspective, you lose 4 standing starters and an opportunity that was great. They reached the semifinals 2 years straight. You had a first-round draft pick, which Texas hadn't had in quite some time. At the offensive line position, you had multiple offensive linemen go in the draft, which also hasn't been a thing in Texas recent history. So being able to get Texas kind of back where a lot of people expected Texas to be over the past 15 years, that has been awesome. But obviously, whenever you have great talent, then you have great turnover. And that's one area that, I will closely be looking at. I'm sure everybody's closely looking at it just because you got to replace 4 guys. Now, here's what also gives me a little bit of peace of mind about those 4 guys leaving is the fact that the 4 guys that are coming in are not stepping into something completely new, right? All of those guys have playing experience. Cole Hudson and Nato have extensive playing experience. They just may not have been the starters full time, but they've played a ton of snaps underneath their belt. We saw Trevor Gooseby a season ago whenever he had to fill in for Kelvin Banks and Cam Williams on the left side and the right side of the offensive line. Brandon Baker is probably the least experienced out of the new faces, but I also put my trust in what Kyle Flood has been able to do. So I think it's there, and if you flip to the other side of the ball in the trenches on the interior side of the ball, that's always going to be a big question mark as well. Losing a pair of defensive linemen to the NFL draft yet again for the 3rd straight year, having to replace that type of production, that type of kind of impact, especially with how well Texas has been able to stop the run defensively. I think that's where my eyes go. So I got to look at the trenches on the offensive and the defensive side if I have any area of concern and see if those things can be handled quickly to kind of mitigate the concerns that I have and see if this is a championship caliber outfit team and they get a chance to prove that 11 a.m. Central against Ohio State in week 1 in the shoe.
No question. And a couple of notes on that. Looks like Trevor Gooseby is going to be healthy for the game. He'll play. He did have got his finger caught up and battled that at the end of camp. Also, there's been reporting that, and Sark has mentioned, Connor Stroh, a big 6'7", 340-pound interior guard, has really been pushing Neto Umeozulu for starting position. That's a good thing, right? When you got guys that want to go get it, and you got a guy who's a road mover at 340 pounds that maybe is earning some opportunities, that would say there's a little bit more depth than maybe people know about. And that goes to your point of having these 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year players who are just ready to step into their role, Foz.
Yeah, and I love Connor Stroh as well. I got a chance to see him a few times throughout the course of spring, and that is a massive individual. I think we all know Kyle Flood loves large humans, and if he can get large humans that can move, it makes for a better opportunity to protect the quarterbacks and obviously create some additional running lanes for those running backs. The thing that stands out, even whenever Sark first came 4 years ago, the practice tempo and the intensity, as well as the intentionality of creating reps for guys that were in the 2s and the 3s and the 4 position, was one that was very unique to me. You got 1s and 2s going against each other on one side of the field, and you got 3s and 4s going against each other on another side of the field, and then you're doing that for offense and defense. And so throughout every single team period, everybody is getting the same amount of reps. And we can see a direct correlation with the development that has had on Steve Sarkisian's teams over the past few years. The depth just continues to get better and better, and The defensive tackle position is probably a perfect example at that, as well as the wide receiver position, because over the past 3 years, Steve Sarkisian has been able to produce multiple draft picks from those positions. Not to exclude the running backs, but we all know what the running backs are for Texas as well. But that just goes to show you how intentional he has been with creating a game plan for how he wants to build the program, how the depth is critical and key for the success for them throughout the course of a long season and playing in a physical conference like the SEC. It matters that you have that type of depth and that type of experience and ready to go whenever your number is called.
It's 100%. I mean, this is a new era of college football. We all know that. And then in the NFL, Foz, which you played for 6-7 years, if somebody gets hurt, you can go to the waiver wire and pick somebody up, and they're a pretty good player. You don't have that luxury in college football, so you do have to use your third and fourth guys to get your starters off your feet, because you want your starters, just like in the NFL, being fresh and in their best come December, January, right? You want, and I think that's been intentional for Sark, as you just said, to get those guys ready. Because in some of these games that will come after the Ohio State game, some of these others, you'd hope to have a lead, so you can get those guys in, get them reps, but also make sure your lead dogs and your C.J. Baxter and Trey Wisner and Anthony Hill and all these guys are at their best come December, right?
Absolutely, that's always what the main goal and the main key is, and. The first year I saw Coach Pete Kwiatkowski, the defensive coordinator. Remember, I saw kind of his role and game plan for how he liked to implement substitutions on the defensive side of the ball. And it was like every fourth series, it was like a massive change of players. And whenever that season started, I was like, what are we doing? Like, why are we taking some of our best players off of the field? But little did I know, in my naive nature, it's like it's preparing for a long season, right? And you add the CFP expansion from 4 to 12, and then who knows what it'll be after this upcoming season, if they'll expand even further to 16 or 24 or 28 or even 32, who knows, right? But that's just going to add more wear and tear and more games onto the schedule for a lot of these players. And you got to take the approach similar to what the NFL does in making sure you have guys ready to go, so that if you do get a chance to take the lead, or you rotating in and out like PK does on the defense, you keep those guys as fresh as possible. You keep the amount of hits on them as limited as possible, and that allows for yourself and your team to have the best opportunity to be completely healthy whenever you're coming down the stretch, because it's not always who is the best team whenever you're completely healthy with 100% health. Whenever you get to December and January to try to win a national championship, a lot of times it comes down to the most experienced and the ones that are the most healthy in that moment. And so Steve Sarkisian has obviously created that plan to make sure that health and longevity of a season has been a top priority in order to put themselves in position to try to win a championship.
No question, man. He saw that firsthand with Nick Saban at Alabama, and that's how they did a lot of things and understood. And it's even longer than it was when Saban was dominating college football as far as extra games. Fozzy Whittaker is with us. He is, of course, from the Third and Longhorn podcast, a critical part of that. Great conversation every week. Also on ESPN, as he said, he'll be in Fayetteville this weekend for his first game of his season with SEC Network. Foz, we have Texas at number 2 in our countdown. I remember you wore number 2 at one point at Texas, did you not? You were 28, but you also wore 2. Am I wrong?
Yeah, that was my senior season. 2 was my favorite number, and I got a chance to wear that my senior year. So that deuce is wild is what I always say.
That's right. See, we knew it, man. That is a method to our madness. Yeah, you're the number 2 on the way to number, with 2 days to go, and number 2 in the countdown for the Texas Longhorns. Hey, Foz, you've been out to practice, as you just indicated, and our audience loves this, that you get to see. But Arch Manning, we've heard a lot. Michael Taft saying he's got more juice than any player I've ever been around. I know he's a quiet guy publicly, but you've seen it. This guy's got some fire to him, and he'll bring it. You want a competitor at quarterback, and he will compete. That has to be a really positive thing when you get into these, battles that you're going to be in, like you are on Saturday.
Absolutely. I love Arch. His demeanor is completely different from Quinn Ewers, and not in a negative or positive way. He just has a different vibe about himself. As the young kids would say, right, his aura is all the way up. So he possesses a lot of aura, and then I think that's the leadership qualities that you want in a quarterback, to be able to lead the team in the way that he does and be his true, authentic self. I remember listening back to Steve Sarkisian during SEC media days, mentioning how sometimes last year and the first year that Sark came on campus, Arch would be in a team setting and he wouldn't necessarily speak up the way that he normally would whenever they were in the quarterback room. And so Steve Sarkisian reminds Arch Manning, like, hey, your goal is to be yourself, your true, authentic self. And I think now that he gets a chance to run the offense as the top and head signal caller and be this leader, and this team probably will go as well as Arch Manning goes, he's really found his stride of how he wants to lead, and the players see that, and they really appreciate him for that, and they follow his lead. And I think one of the things that also stands out to me, even whenever you hear that clip that you played back from Steve Sarkisian early in the press conference mentioning, hey, we don't know what type of outfit this team will be, that's truly candid and frank, because they haven't had a chance to see how their team stacks up, especially against top competition. And so until Saturday, that question can't necessarily be answered until you have some data points to be able to watch and see how the team actually responds and goes from there. And in the same vein, Arch Manning has that same type of candidness, that whenever you ask him a question, if he doesn't know, or he will let you know that, hey, I haven't done these things yet. It's my opportunity to go out and win it. And I think the maturity level that he possesses is well beyond his years. I mean, with the amount of hype swirling around him and Heisman talk and all of these different preseason awards, and Texas being number one in the AP and the coaches poll, he's handled it. But at the same time, he knows what he's at Texas to do, and that's to go get ball games and try to win a championship. And that's what his sole focus is. So I'm expecting great things from him because of how he's prepared for these things to come. And I believe the team will get behind him and rally and do what the expectations are for Texas to do, which is hopefully win.
Win the first national championship in 20 years would be the ultimate goal. Foz, last thing real quick, because we know we got to get to the timeout and you got to get going here. You got to get on a plane to Arkansas today. But the running back, C.J. Baxter, that was your position, obviously. He's coming off an injury. You battled some injuries at times at Texas. What have you seen from C.J.? And obviously Trey Wisner could be a pretty dynamic duo if both stay healthy.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting. I think last year we lost a little bit from the running back room without having CJ there, and obviously that's an understatement. But CJ is a bigger guy, and whenever we needed to kind of ground and pound against some of the better opponents defensively, i.e. Georgia, i.e. Ohio State, we didn't have the opportunity to kind of just use a bigger body to help wear down that defense. And so bringing CJ Baxter back off of the injury and seeing the way that Steve Sarkisian has also been intentional in making sure that, you do it slowly and methodical so that C.J. Baxter's ready to go by the time week one comes around in 2 days. I think that's been a huge benefit for this offense. And that 1-2 punch that we will see from those two guys will truly create more of a balanced and dynamic type of running style. Not to mention Arch Manning being able to run the ball will help also open up a lane or two or give those running backs some more space. So those two guys are going to be the feature backs. I'm expecting great things from them, and I'm expecting more improvement running the ball just in general against those top-tier opponents. And if we can do that, then I think Texas has that championship type of outfit to say, hey, we don't have to throw the ball 35, 40 times to win. We can also line up and show you how physical we can be and control the line of scrimmage. So I'm expecting C.J. Baxter to be back 100%, Trey Wisner to hit the form that he hit at the end of the season last year. And then don't forget Christian Clark as well, as a freshman who wasn't able to play last year. I believe he'll get some significant playing time throughout the course of the season, along with Jared Gibson.
Foz, thanks, buddy. Safe travels to Fayetteville and back, and hook 'em horns, number 2 with 2 days to go. We appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you all, man. Appreciate all you all do for the college game.
All right, buddy. There it is. Fozzy Whittaker, Third and Longhorn podcast every week, and now every week on ESPN with a different SEC game. He'll have Arkansas at Fayetteville I didn't hear the directional school he said they're playing. South Alabama, I think, or one of the Alabama schools, but I'll look that up.